Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and we do watercolor tutorials, different project every single week, and we break it down step by step. This week we are doing our kitty cat.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh. No! Yes!
I thought about it, but then I was like, that was the wrong decision.
Meow. Meow.
That's a good one.
It's a good one. We are using a buttload of colors. Am I allowed to say that?
Yes. That's an actual measurement.
It is. Technical
I'll find
measurement.
the definition actually in my
thesaurus.
thesaurus.
Okay, our first color is dandelion yellow. Our second color is violet. Our third color is emerald green. Our fourth color is azure blue. Our fifth color is honey brown. And our last color is fuchsia. And that is because we are mixing our browns and our blacks for this painting. So we are essentially using every color except brown and black. It might be super helpful to have a color wheel. I'll refer to this as we're painting. You can get these on our website, letsmakeart.com. Just add it to your order. It's a couple bucks. Super helpful, handy reference to have, especially if you're mixing colors or if you're out of a color. Okay, our steps for this project. Step number one, we are going to do a brownish wash across our cat. The reason why I'm saying brownish is since we're mixing it with a bunch of colors, we are going to have undertones of other colors. That's okay. That's what makes it fun and interesting. That's what makes it different. If you hate that so very much, then just buy a brown and a black and don't mix these colors.
Yeah.
The second step, we are going to do the stripes on the face. Third step, we're going to do like the like black areas. So a bit on the ears, the eyelids, the shadow on the nose and the mouth. Fourth step, we are going to color in the eyes. Fifth step, we're going to do the chest. And the very last step is any finishing details we need to do, like the whiskers or whatever. We'll figure out it when we get there. Now we do have an outline for this project. If you are not a subscriber and did not purchase this kit, you can still have access to this outline at letsmakeart.com. Just find the kitty cat project. There'll be a button that says download outline, click on that. You can print it, and I just transferred it using graphite paper. But there's multiple ways of transferring images, so if you don't like that, you can use a light box, you can use a window, you can make your own graphite sheet by just penciling on a sheet. Okay? You ready to get started?
Ready.
We're using a round 6 and a round 2 paintbrush. We always use these two paintbrushes. They're our go-to brushes. They're Princeton Heritage Series 4050 synthetic sable hair great brushes. Okay, so we're going to start off by mixing our brown. So we have brown, kind of, that we have a honey brown, which is really like a golden color. And if I were to use just this straight brown right onto my cat, it would actually turn yellow, because look how yellow that brown is. So.
Wow. That shocked me.
It's the color of honey, which is why it's honey brown, you know?
I love honey.
I do too.
It's tasty.
It's good. So we're gonna just enrich this color with other colors to make it more brown. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna add fuchsia. And that is gonna make it orange, okay? Like an orangey red. That is also not the color of the cat we're going for. So we're gonna turn down the orange by adding some blue. And now it's green. And so I'm using my color wheel theory here to add the opposite. So this is too green, so I'm going to add more fuchsia because that is the opposite of green, and that will tone it down. Now it's like a blackish color, so we need to warm it back up to make it brown. So I'm going to grab some yellow and a little bit more fuchsia. And now, and if you want to do another swish of honey brown. So that, there we go. There's the brown we're looking for. So just depending on how much paint you add to yours, you're gonna have to just make adjustments. If it's reading too much one color, add the color's complement. It's just whatever is across from that color on the color wheel, okay? Now, when I start painting with this and I add water to it, hints of other colors are gonna show up underneath when you add water to it. That's okay. You can see in our cat here that I have hints of yellow, I have hints of green, I have some like reddish, I have purple undertones here, so they're gonna show up. I'm prepping you now because I don't want you to freak out. Okay, so I'm gonna take this brown and I'm going to avoid the tip of the nose. I'm not gonna do that yet because that's a lighter color. That one's mostly honey brown, so I'm just gonna start kind of right here. And we can just paint over the stripes areas because we're gonna paint those anyway, and we should still be able to see the outlines through the painting because watercolor is transparent. So I don't mind just painting straight over them. Now, if you want more, if you really like how the undertones of colors are showing up in the painting, don't be afraid to exaggerate that a little. Like I just picked up an extra thing of fuchsia to kind of just like mix in there.
It's a great color.
Now, I'm going to be honest here. I named this project Kitty Cat because I don't know the breeds of cats. I know this is a specific type of cat, but I don't know the actual name. And I know that they're normally more gray than brown, but I wanted to have fun with colors, so I just made up my own thing.
Is calico a brand of cat or is it a color of cat?
I don't know. I know nothing.
Okay, stand by. I was reading about the history and definition of buttload, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
But now I will look up brands of cats.
Thank you. Breeds of cats. Have I been saying brands the entire time?
I've been saying brands. You probably said breeds.
Okay. All right. And then I'm going to make sure that my dark brown is really dark underneath the eye. You see this swoop here? That we're going to leave white, so I'm not going to touch that. But this area is going to be a darker brown. So I'm just making sure I'm grabbing lots of paint to get that dark value, okay? And then I'm just going to use water to spread that out. It goes all the way to the eyeball, okay? And it gets lighter, and then it gets darker again, kind of in this area, like this swoop, and that is because you kind of want to show like the head, you know what I mean? Like when it transitions from the end of the head to the body. So that's why we're kind of making that a darker value there.
There are far too many brands of cats.
And I added, to make this brown really dark, I just added violet to the mix, okay? And that violet really darkened this brown. So I'm just gonna keep using this dark brown across the back of this cat. And don't forget to use just water to help spread out the color that you already laid down.
I think the most similar, at least head shape, cat that I found is Pixie Bob.
Pixie Bob?
Uh-huh. But they are a little more on the gray side and striped.
Yeah.
But this actually, it looks pretty close, I think.
I'm sure someone knows more about cats than we do and will tell us on YouTube the
Yes.
correct thing. So thank you in advance for whoever
Yes,
does
thank
that.
you.
And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back and kind of re-darken. It's pretty dark in between the ears over here and right at the top of the nose where I started. So I'm just gonna go add some violet to my brown to really darken that up. And bring that in there and maybe do that here on my nose and around my eye. Just to, And this is where it's important to get those different values in because we want to give the sense of form. So you need to have different values even within this wash. Okay. And then we need to do like this cheek area. Now, especially on the lip, it's a really light brown. And then where the whiskers are coming out of this area, it's just kind of golden, so I just used honey brown for that. And then I'm just going to grab some of this color and bring it to it. So this goes all the way to the nose. There we go. So there's a little stronger color right here where the whiskers are coming out. And again, I want to just have like undertones of other colors going on here. So this is all reading really brown. If I want to introduce a little bit of purple in there, you absolutely can. If you want to introduce like little hints of green, don't be afraid to just do washes of other colors on top of it just for color and variation's sake. Like, just try it. Just try it. I know it's scary putting it on because you're like, cats aren't purple, but this is where we get to have fun. You're the artist. We know cats aren't purple, but wouldn't it be so great if they were?
Yeah.
Like, why not?
That's why it's cool to see purple chicks every once in a while. You've seen those? They're like colored baby chickens, the chicks.
Do they dye the fur?
Yeah, the
Oh.
feathers, yes.
That's
It's like
right.
a fluff.
That's
It's between
right.
the two. I don't think it's legal in America, but I have seen it in my life.
Okay, so I'm doing a little bit of blues here. Just again, I just want some different colors going on. You know what I mean? I just like to live on the edge.
Oh,
I haven't said that in a long time.
back.
So if you feel risky like me, drop some color in there just to see what happens, just for fun.
Flash of life.
Yeah. Oh, that's a little too dark. That's okay. Blend it out. Okay, now I went back and added this. You can see I'm having some blooms happening here. I'm a huge fan of blooms. I love blooms, but the only thing about blooms is sometimes if they're too strong, they're going to create strong value shifts, which might mess up the form that you're creating. So I'm afraid that might happen on my eye. So I'm actually going to go in and just kind of smooth these out. And that just means I'm kind of just going to work my brush back and forth across it to get a smoother line and not have such strong blooms. Maybe an extra hint of this honey brown right on that mouth where those whiskers are coming off. Now, let's say you put a color down and you're like, man, I wanted color, but that's just like popping out that it is so distracting. Use the complement to tone it down right on top of the page. So that's yellow. Yellow's complement is purple. So if I just grab a little bit of purple and just put purple right on top of the yellow, it will automatically tone down the yellow. So if you have to do that, you can absolutely do that on your paper. You don't have to do it in the tray first. I forgot to mention that there's construction going on above and next to us. So sorry about that, but the show must go on.
Yes, they can't stop us.
No one can stop us. Okay, so we are done with that. We're done with step one. This is probably the one that's going to take the most time, so great job. We are going to move on to step two where we have to do the stripes, but we want the stripes to stay sharp. If we try to put them in right now while it's wet, they'll just bleed and blend out and then we won't have those strong stripes. So what I'm going to do while I'm waiting for that to dry is just move to the tip of this nose. So I'm going to switch to my round 2 because it's a smaller brush. I'm going to grab honey brown and I'm going to do honey brown at the tip on the left right at the top, just right there. And then I'm just gonna use water. I'm just gonna use water to spread it. So we really wanna make sure this part is a light value. And then it goes into with that brown. There we go. And we're still not dry yet, so another thing we can do in the meantime is put the shadow on this face. Am I now introducing steps that aren't on our thing? Yes. But that's fine.
Were you under the impression that it was only 6 steps?
But did you think it was only 6 steps by me telling you it was 6 steps?
You led us to believe.
But this is the point. This is like the thing with watercolor is, I say this a lot, it's like a dance. There are some things you got to work quickly because it's wet and you want to work while it's wet, or there are some things you got to step back from and let it dry. And while we let it dry, why not work on another area that we have to get to anyway?
Yeah.
Why not? So this is going to be a dark brown. So I'm going to introduce a little bit of violet to my brown mixture and make sure that's nice and dark. And I'm going to put this shadow in that's kind of on the side of the nose and starts to work its way up to the eye. And then it kind of blends out on the bottom part. So I'm just going to use my brown, blend that together. Okay. And of course, if you want to do another layer of dark, you can. Sometimes it's better to wait for it to dry and then do another layer. If, let's say there's an area that's wet and you keep on doing layer on top of layer and it's not getting any darker, that just means you got to wait for it to dry and then do another layer of dark. Okay, now we're going to do the stripes. So the stripes are a really dark color. So I'm going to try and mix more of a black than a brown, or make a really, really dark brown, just darker than what we already have on our cat. So I'm going to start with violet, and then I'm going to grab honey brown. Okay, that's a dark brown, but I want it to be like more of a cool brown. So I'm going to introduce a cool color. I'm going to introduce blue. That's looking better. Let's see what happens if we introduce more blue. Okay, now it's reading green, so I'm going to add fuchsia. Here we go. Now we're getting to more of a cool brown. It's reading kind of green. That's okay. I'm going to try adding violet to that and see what happens. Ooh, now it's like a purple brown, which that's good. This is a good color. Okay, so I'm going to use that, and I'm just going to use my 6. And I'm going to do, if you want to do these in one strokes, you can. This is why rounds, this is why round watercolor brushes are amazing. You can do thin and thick strokes in the same stroke, just depending on your pressure. So we have, you can see these stripes start off narrow, go thick, and then go light. So I have them outlined, so if you just want to color them in, you can. Or if you just want to try and do it in one stroke, I'm going to start off light pressure, and then I'm going to press down, and then I'm going to light pressure again. So I'm going to do these in more in one stroke, but if you're not quite there yet, because it does take some practice getting that pressure down. If you're not there yet, don't stress. It's not a big deal. Just fill it in then. Okay, and I'm actually going to stop. This one stayed sharp. These two are bleeding a little bit, and I want these to be sharp. So I'm going to give that another minute to dry, and I'll move to another area. The ones back here are darker. Are drier, so I'm going to go there. Okay. And then using this same black-brown mixture, I'm going to do the back of the ears. the little light brown spot kind of here, because you know how, I'm gonna do a little bit of pink, because if you look at cat ears, there's like, on the back, they have like a little round thing that kind of comes off their ear a little bit, and it's just like a little bit of skin. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's not like a skin tag or whatever, it's just the shape of their ears has like a little rounded edge on.
Cats
Yeah.
have a weird shaped ear?
No, they're like, so here's their ear, but on this part, there's like a little flap that kind of does this, and then it keeps going down.
No idea.
Okay, next time you see a cat, pay attention to their ears.
I'll try not to look at a cat. It's animals in the.
They just have a little, like, it's, now I'm like questioning everything I've ever known,
Well,
but I'm fairly sure it's there.
I don't.
Why would
I'm
I put this
not known
here?
as an animal person, so
So really you don't know.
I really have no idea.
Great. Okay. So I'm going to try and see if these are sharp again. So I'm going to move to my round 2 and just sharpen up these edges and see if they stay sharp. And so far so good. So I'm going to clean those up a little bit. They didn't bleed a ton, so if I left them, it probably wouldn't have been a big deal. But you know, for the sake of learning.
Oh, I see what you're talking about.
The fuzziness just a little bit.
I googled.
Oh,
I
on the
googled
ear.
the ears.
Okay, yeah.
Interesting. Good news.
Say good muse.
Yeah, because meow.
That's funny right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got my stripes. Yep, that looks pretty good. Again, if you want to add more stripes onto yours, you can do whatever you want. This is your cat. Okay, now we're gonna move on to doing the ears, the nose, and the eyes, like the black shadowy part. So I already started the back of my ear here. And I'm gonna put brown on this side. And then use water to spread it out, but then the closer it gets, wait a second. Oh, I didn't draw one part on my outline, that's what I'm missing. This flap is actually here. Okay.
Sneaky.
Okay, let me just change that really quick. No big deal. There we go. I'm like, my lines aren't matching up. Then I'll put a little bit of pink there for the flap. Okay, now things are starting to mesh better. This area right here is going to be pink, kind of like the color of skin. So I'm going to grab a little bit of fuchsia and mix that with brown to tone it down a little bit. And then just use water and this brown to kind of spread out and meet that pink. We have black kind of fur coming up right here, or a really dark brown, but I don't want to do that yet because I want to keep that fairly separated from the color I just painted. So I'm going to move on to the other ear. The back of this one is this like dark color that we've been using. And then I'm going to switch to my round 2, and using a lighter brown or a warmer brown, I'm going to do the little tufts of hair coming off of that. Okay. Now I'm going to put in my little part on this ear right here. So it is still wet, so it's blending a little bit, but staying separate enough that it's okay. And if you want to blend that into the head a little bit more, you can. There we go. Now it doesn't feel like chunky. It feels like that just transitions into that a little bit better. Okay. Now, using that same black color that we used for the stripes, and if you want to add a little bit more violet and blue to it to really give it a cooler black color, I am going to do this part on the eye. Using my round 2. So we want that to be nice and dark. And then that lid actually follows with the black shape here. Like so. And a little bit at the bottom. Now when you want to do really light lines, you want to make sure you are doing a vertical hold, light pressure, just using the tip of the bristles to do this area. Okay? We're going to put in the pupil. Okay. Does it look creepy right now, like it's doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. That's just because we haven't put in the iris yet. It will calm down once we put that in there.
It's wearing those white out contacts, you know? People wear cat contacts.
Yeah.
It wears scary contacts.
Okay, then we're going to put in just the mouth line. So using that same black, here's kind of where that lip goes, where the other lip meets the lip, and then there's just a little chunk of black where the mouth is slightly parted, and then around the right side of the nose where the nostril is. Okay. Looking good. Looking good. Now we need to do the color on the eyes, and I'm going to just make sure this is totally dry before I want to do that. The last thing we want is to go in and put in our eye color and that black color bleed everywhere. So while I'm waiting, I'm just kind of going to define this ear edge a little bit better. And if you want to do little like tufts of fur kind of coming off the back of the ear, you can. It is hairy, so there will be fur. Look, I have paint on my wrist and it's getting on my paper. That's okay, I'll use a magic eraser.
Where did that paint come from?
I think this was damp when I rested my wrist on it. Yeah. Clean magic eraser, clean water. Softly scrub. It will not erase it completely. Sometimes it can, depending on how dark the paint was. But it will make it disappear pretty much. So always have a magic eraser, Mr. Clean magic eraser handy. Okay. I think it's time to do the eyeball, the iris. So the top part of the eye, so we have 3 sections going on. We have a wobbly section, tiny one right here. This is the glare. We're going to leave that white. We have this section up here. This is the shadowed top of the iris. Almost always when you're painting eye, the top of the iris is going to be a darker value than the bottom of the iris, and that is because our eyelashes and our lids and our brows are casting a shadow on the eye. And then the bottom part is usually where the color is the lightest value and usually the most vibrant, because that's where the light is hitting your eye. Now, of course, depending on where your light source is, that will change, but that's a general rule. Now, I'm going to go with kind of a green gold color. So I'm going to grab golden brown and green and mix that together. Okay, so this will be
They're just hard at work.
They're just doing their
I
jobs.
think Bob the Builder's out there, and they can do it.
They can.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is going to be my strong color, and then I need a darker color of that same color for the top. So I'm going to pull up that same green to another part of my palette and just grab like whatever darker color I have going on here. Okay, so here's like a darker version, here's my lighter version. So I'm going to put my darker version in. Okay, rinse your brush, grab your light green, and you can decide how saturated you want it, and you can also decide the color. Maybe you want blue eyes instead. That would have been way pretty.
Yeah,
That's what I should have done.
that would be great.
So I'm doing the part closest to the shadowed area, then I'm rinsing my brush, and I'm just going to use water to do the rest of it. And then I'm just going to do one more run, because essentially you want the transition on the eye to be super dark green, then darker green, then really light green. So you just want to make sure it's the darkest at the very top, and then it just like transitions down. That's going to give you a nice, lifelike, glary eye. Okay.
Nice.
We got a little fly friend here. Okay, now we're going to move on to doing the white part on the cat, like the chest and the mouth. So, so what I'm going to do is I'm essentially just going to take these colors that I have on my tray already, and where there's light ones, I'm just going to pull them off to the side, and it's going to create like a purpley gray color. So I'm taking a little bit of my brown and a little bit of my purple, mixing water into that, and it's going to be like this neutral tan color, okay? So for the mouth, kind of coming off the mouth, I'm going to start with that color, and then I'm going to just use water to spread it out. Okay. And then when we get to the body, I'm going to use that same color just for these like tufts of fur, kind of where they're gathered together. And then just use a little bit of water. I don't want to cover all of the white. I just want to like blend it just a little bit, and you will still leave some white spaces. Okay. Now for the other side of the lip, there's a little bit of brown right here on the other side of the mouth, but it doesn't go all the way to the other side of the lip. So we're just going to do it closest to that black line, and then grab a damp brush and then kind of blend it out like that. So it transitions from black to kind of a darker brownish to a lighter brown to white. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for that. And if you want to put a little bit more color in your white fur, like I have going on, there's like really strong purple and kind of reddish tones, you can put those back in if you want. Just make sure that they're light, so lots of water. But again, it's just for fun. Okay, now we're going to move on to details. There's still a couple areas, and this is just how I like to paint, which is usually I leave the white space around the eye until the very end. That's because I want to make sure things are nice and crisp. And usually what I'll do is right under the eye on the right side, there is going to be a thin white line for the lid. So I'm just going to take my brown and use damp water to kind of put a light, just a hint of color in there, but still leaving a white thin line for the lid, for the eyelid.
So you're taking color from the already existing brown?
Yeah, I'm not picking up any more color. If you want to pick up more color, you absolutely can. And then the same thing on the top. I'm just taking color from what's already there and then blending to my black line. Now this one does not have as strong of a white edge around the top. It's mainly just on the bottom. So I'm going to be spreading this brown all the way to the black part like that.
Very nice.
It just needs a little extra shadow in here. Okay. And then we got to do the nose. The bottom of the nose and the side of the nose is going to be a dark pink. So I'm grabbing my fuchsia and I'm mixing a little bit of brown in there with it to tone it down. So I like to do the bottom with color and this little side with color, and then rinse my brush and just use the lighter version for the tip, like that. So you want to make sure that there is a stronger value on the side and at the bottom to give, even the nose has form. It's a three-dimensional thing. Looks good. Okay. Now one thing I'm noticing is as my eye dried, light green crept up to the top. And I don't want that. I want to make sure the top of my eye is nice and dark. So I'm going to do another layer of dark brown at the top of my eye.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah, it changes on you as watercolor dries. That's why, like, details, we're in the details step. A lot of it is just going back and checking on things. After you've wet it and painted it, you need to come back and be like, okay, how did that dry? What does that look like? So I'm just going to adjust that, no problem. I put another layer of black. I'm going to blend it down. There we go. There. And if you feel like you want to do another layer of black right on this part, try and make it as inky black as you can. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now we have some whiskers to do. Whiskers are hard. I'm telling you this right now. I am warning you. If you want to practice a little bit, this is what whiskers are. Number 2 brush, grab some color, vertical hold, light pressure, and you're just as thin as you can be. Okay? If your whiskers are kind of looking more like this, I would maybe not even put them in, because whiskers are one of those things where, like, it could affect this painting. You know what I mean? But also I would just like to say it's a piece of paper. So let's say you're not so sure about your whiskers, but you want to try it anyway and you don't like how it turns out. All you got to do is pick that sucker up and throw it in the trash. Over. Not a big deal. So I think it's worth it to try it, and I want you guys to be brave, because it is a scary thing, but also not so scary that it doesn't define your worth. Like, if your whiskers are bad, it's not like you're a bad artist. It's like you just need a little bit more practice. So don't stress if that is you. So I'm going to put the little dots in on the mouth where the whiskers come out of. Cats have these. little dots, okay? And I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna do my whiskers. Now, a paintbrush that really helps with whiskers are liners. Liners are long and skinny brushes. Let me see if I have one actually that I can show you. Is there one here? Yeah. So, are you on the close-up cam? Can you see this?
Yes.
This is a liner too. They're thin and the same width all the way through it. So it's much easier to get thin lines with liners. This is a round 2. If you look at the thickness of the base of the brush, the round 2 is thicker, which means you have a higher chance of getting thicker lines. So if you really want to like master those thin lines and you're struggling with your round 2, try getting a liner, super helpful. But I'm going to use my round 2. And I'm going to get a darker color. Now whiskers are actually white most of the time, but we don't have bleed-proof white, so I'm making them black. And guess what? They still are whiskers.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like white whiskers would be almost distracting here, though.
well, it would be really difficult to see on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
Because the background is white. So sometimes what I do in those instances is I'll do some dark ones and then some white ones, and then I'll do like gray ones on the left-hand side so they show up better against the white background and you can see them. So I'm just going to grab some paint, round 2, light pressure, and just start whisking away. Some curl up, some are going down. Some are long, some are short. They definitely run into each other. I'm gonna have a few more going down. You don't have to match them all with the dots. Okay? Whiskers. They also have like whiskers coming out of their head, like their brows sometimes. So same thing, I'm just gonna do a couple. And it's just boop, 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 boop. Okay, and then on the other side, now they're not going to be as long because they're coming out around the side of the mouth, so we'd only see the edge of them. So
Have you seen a cat get scared by a cucumber?
Yes, I have actually. I have.
I've only seen videos.
I haven't seen it in person, I've
Okay.
just seen videos. And yeah, now one thing that is slightly bothering me a little is how perfect these stripes are on the top of the head. I don't know why my brain is telling me to go with a damp brush and just mess that up a little bit. So I am. Just gonna take the damp brush, just kind of start blending. Soften up some of the areas. Because we still want it to feel natural, and that's the thing that I struggle with including outlines is sometimes people stay so within the outlines, so sectioned, where most of the time there's always weird in between areas where things transition, and that's why I like taking a damp brush and just blending things up and messing that up, because that's, I mean, if you look at the patterns on fur, there's always a period or a section where like a dark area is meeting a light area, but if you look closely, there are some light areas right on the edge in the dark areas and dark areas on the edge in the light areas. So it's usually not such a crisp line. Okay, we finished our cat. We're done. Congratulations. I just want to point out compositionally that since this cat is a profile and we can see its form in profile, it's a little bit easier to paint. If we were doing a cat face on, that's a little bit harder because we still have to communicate the forms of the face, but it's looking at us, which means there's foreshortening and things like that, perspective, all of that stuff. So if you did the golden retriever tutorial with us, that dog was looking at us, which made it really difficult to paint. This cat is looking to the side, which makes it a little bit easier to communicate the form of this animal. So if you want to do animals, but you're still not very good at like doing different values and really doing that perspective and foreshortening shift, do animals in profile. Super, super helpful, okay? So if you painted this with us, please share it. Tag us at Let's Go Make Art or hashtag Let's Make Art. If you're on Facebook, we have a business page, but then we also have a separate watercolor group. It's called Let's Make Art Watercolor. Very supportive community and very large. So, but it's great to see what other people are making with us and also what they're doing in their own time. We have both on there. So that's called Let's Make Art Watercolor. Feel free to join it if you so desire. That's all I gotta say. You guys are really great. I'm out of breath for talking so fast.